or what have you. So, and 6 people, but I think I don't want to wait too long for things. So I think as people will gradually filter in. So, okay, we can wait for a couple of more minutes type of thing. So, anybody has any questions or comments from last time? Okay, I think I stand to be I learn as much from you guys as as I learned from preparing. So please, especially people with a lot more science background than I have, than myself, like people like John and Peter, especially. Peter is not going to be in today because he's out on a cooking show, I think.
I have a question. I have a question, Bharat.
Please go ahead. Oh, hi.
Oh, this is Phil.
Oh, hi.
Hi. Yeah. I have read in evolutionary history that one reason we developed such powerful vision, and it's binocular and color vision and so on, is because we needed in the trees when we were apes to find the fruit and to judge the distance to each branch. Now, I know in terms of strong vision, eagles and birds have great distance vision, but I'm wondering if any other animals other than the primates have the multi-sided vision that we do, binocular and color and all the
This is today's class. I think you have to wait until you finish. I think I have like this is
today's class. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I think it's mostly I'm starting with eyes, because most of the book starts with smell and touch, but I thought vision is so important that if people who get bored or get other assignments, so all of today's 40 or 50 slides for 2 hours, you'll have enough of eyes that to talk about. Right. So I think it was a very you allowed me to introduce to the subject. I was behind by a few times that I think I missed a couple of slides, which I think, because which John can add, about bacteria and viruses, so I think that we'll just get over that. And I think I will start my recording now, so that way I can send it, so, okay. Okay, I think, somebody may have started the recording already, so it's like, because it goes to pause, okay.
It was started because they told me it was.
Oh, okay, yeah, so it is recording. Okay, fine. So then won't worry about it then. Okay, good. So we are on the spot then. Okay, and because a lot of times, okay. So I think we've since we didn't get the recording from Ollie. I'm just guessing this is where we probably stopped. I think I had about 34 or 35 slides. So just correct me if I'm repeating it. Just I'm sorry, but I think and now. This is magnetic bacteria we went through. Now, I think I just put in this slide today type of thing. And now just a quiz especially for the people who are more poetry oriented than I am. Whose line is this? I am large, I contain multitudes.
Walt Whitman.
Hey, yes, you are. Okay, that is the first book by Ed Yong, who we talked about the other day. So that is okay. So okay. So and now anybody who speaks French can translate this, because we're talking about like how the nature uses the same material again and again. So this was I listened to a lecture from Professor D. Robertis on From One Cell to Animals. It was a very heavy talk from a UCLA professor, and I think he's Swiss, and this was one of his slides, and this is so. If somebody who is a French,
you're not sharing your screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have to. Yeah, I think I should. Yeah. Thanks for pointing it out. Yeah. So I think this is. Oh, screen 2, share. Okay. Yeah, you should have that now. Got it?
It's very tiny. It's hard to see, hard to read.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let me try to make it bigger if I can. How is that now?
Okay, I do speak French. If anybody else does, they can go ahead if you want. But it is not but an animal, the creature is not served que d'un seul et même patron, but of a sole and same boss for all the other organisms.
Okay, yeah. So I cheated. I did Google Translate, and this is what it means, So this is, actually this. So this ties in with the life as to how the genes, for the body segment formation, the Hox gene and other genes are conserved from a lowly, organism where the first neural streak appeared to human beings, the segmented, like a lobster, and we have the same body parts and the bilateral symmetry that when we separated from the radial symmetry to the bilateral. So this was, in the early days, there was a lot of controversy that was going on between very philosophers that, God, as opposed to, that was a very religious era. A lot of scientists were very strong religious bent. And so there was a controversy that was going on with, a couple of naturalists at that time, who worked primarily with fossils and paleontology. So this was his coach part. Okay, so, and I don't think I showed this last time. Okay, if I did, does anybody recall if I showed this or not?
No, I don't think you
That's
did.
new, but it's very tiny. It's hard to see.
You
Okay.
did not, and it looks fine on a large screen.
Yeah, it looks okay
got a
on my
phone.
iPad.
Yeah, I use a phone. It
Oh, I
doesn't show
see.
up on the phone.
Yeah, I will try to magnify it for you. Okay, I think let me see if I can magnify it for you. Okay, this is growing cells. So when cells, when they're under trouble, they cooperate, and really go through a lot of, say, chemotaxis. So they secrete certain chemicals and kind of get together. During hurricane, all my neighbors were out the next morning, so we're probably similar to some extent in assessing the damage. And there are two types of cells that separate out, the pre-spore and pre-stalk. Okay, and then the slime mold literally changes from a slug to a fungus. So, okay, what happened here? Okay. Oh yeah, oh, my slide share disappeared actually. Okay, yeah, you should have that now. Okay, back. And so it becomes a fruiting body. So it's literally like, and then it moves to a more suitable place and finds a nice new home. So development is initiated when there is starvation, neighbors aggregate, chemotaxis, and the spores form. And there are varieties of chemicals secrete. And so this becomes like to quote the Beatles, I get by with a little help from my friends. So from slime to so it comes from slime to fungi type of thing. So that is a dramatic. So I translated from the dollar bill sign from many one. So this is I mean, if we can just say you can reverse the pluribus unum, that would be the Latin translation for it. Okay, now this may be, I think, controversial. Say, now what about viruses? Do they have sense? Maybe John can comment upon it, if he wants to. John, do you want to say what your opinion is as a real scientist? Okay.
So why don't you just go ahead, Brad? You're doing great.
Okay, yeah. Oh, and this was, I started thinking about it. Okay, I said, we didn't talk about the largest part, which is bacteria. So I put in some slides for bacteria. So then I said, well, what about viruses? Do they have sense? But first, I mean, obviously, we can spend an hour talking about whether the viruses are alive or not alive. But the one paper that I found, this is the reference for the science-oriented people, that basically viruses are used as vectors. So they do respond to some of the stimuli, either endogenous or exogenous, because sometimes we use viruses to introduce a desirable gene or to modify. That was the earliest therapy that caused the accident in genetic therapy, where they had the big accident, with the young man died from an overactive immune response. Okay, and that set the gene therapy back for about, I should say, from 1990 onwards to almost 15 years, And finally, the same vector has been used recently for the sickle cell gene treatment, viruses. But so there are varieties of stimuli. So they do respond to at least to endogenous stimulus, which is such as pH, redox, and various enzymes, light, even magnetic field and temperature. So how, and I have extensive notes that I introduced, and there is, in spite of all these attempts, this has been advanced through or getting through FDA for this virus-based therapy has been very slow to come around because it's frightfully personalized and expensive. The first one that was approved was in 2012 for really a rare enzyme deficiency. So there is some, we can say that yes, at least some way the viruses do respond to stimuli type of thing. And even when they get inside, there is some information exchange that takes place with the from inside the bacteria to, and even in your own body, they do exchange some information in some way. So now the bacteria can get infected by viruses, and that some of you at least may know that they are called phages. I mean, they're basically similar things, but they attack bacteria, not and attack humans. So that's why they're called phages. And even they, have some type of a chemicals communication that takes place. So there is, some evidence that other domains do use chemical communication. So in other words, they are exchanging some type of information, and there is something called, and this again, when we talked about so-called quorum things, they don't go and actually do arithmetic, but there are certain chemicals which are called auto-inducers. They secrete, and based on their behavior is changed. So this is probably a lot more than you'd care to know about. So, but I think we should probably get into now. This is, we're talking about sensing and symbiosis. So I could not resist, this example that Hawaiian bobtail squid and Vibrio fischeri. So this is a tiny little organism. So let me stop this share and see if I can show you something that I might have. Yeah, I'm going to share, hopefully. Okay, share. Oh, yeah, share screen one. Okay, so no, I don't think it will show easily because it just, I have to minimize windows. So I think I was trying to be clever, but I don't think it works very well. So I think I'll just stay with what has worked so far. Okay, so this is, Hawaiian bobtail squid, so which is called, it has an example of bioluminescence. Okay, so these two organisms, the squid is a tiny little thing you can put on your finger, that thing. So, and it has a light organ, and it has formed a nice symbiotic relationship with, okay, I have to move some of these panels that are blocking my notes. Okay, and matches the darker sea surface and the brighter moonlit background on the bottom surface. So it can fool the other predators that are attacking it. You can just see how this light is. So it is filled with the ink sac, and this organism has in the ocean is lit up with bioluminescence. So these organisms are create their own light. So it's not totally dark underneath it. And the colors that you see, even deep, like thousands of meters under the ocean, no, it's not a dark, gloomy place. They're colorful. So this particular bacteria collaborates with the squid and helps the squid out in saving itself. So this is a classic example of symbiosis. So if it swam up to the top of the sea and it swam them down again. So it was like, so there's so people have written poems about it. So this is a classic example of, collaboration between two totally different, species or organism. So this is where we now we jump into the eyes. Okay, and this is and now There's a series of videos that I have put links on it, Animal Super Senses. This is a free documentary channel on nature. I think it's based out of Australia, based on the accent. And they're like a 10 or 15 videos, and they're absolutely, their photography and other stuff is amazing for those of you who are more curious about it. And this is not the vision, has been around for a long time, and I'll go through the whole evolutionary tree of vision. And as soon as life appeared, some type of sensing from photosensitivity, because we know we got the energy from sun. So that was, like the ultimate free lunch type of thing. So and that, so we were starting to use the energy that we derived from light. Uh, and the photons. So, and obviously, we talked about the, cyanobacteria that gave jump start and got rid of all the carbon dioxide, just to refresh the memory. And so, and the question that you asked me first was eagle eyes. So the eagle eyes have been around for almost 500 million years, 540 million years ago. Okay, because the birds related to dinosaurs. So when we talk about bird's eye, that's the vision which we, so that's, and obviously they are the king of vision. Okay, and this is, just to get back to your basic physics, okay, as far as humans are concerned, our range is rather puny, because we cannot see, like the birds and snakes have a little wider range than we are. But in terms of, so our visible spectrum in terms of wavelength is quite limited. It goes from 380 to 750. So this is, the longer wavelength, goes. That's why the Hubble discovered the red shift. Okay, and so, and this is the classical Newtonian spectrum that we all studied. And this was, and the other physicist who was well known was a guy named Thomas Young. Okay, and he proposed with the wave theory of particle, and but this gets into physics class, so I don't want to digress too much. Okay, but the important point that we were to say would be, when we go through the animal kingdom, they have a lot more capability. We all know about the deep eagle eyes, but the snakes can sense infrared, so can boas and pythons and pit vipers. So they've evolved. And so now what we lack in terms of width of frequency, we make it up in acuity. Okay, because our human acuity is like, we can see a candle almost as far as away as if it's pitch dark, up to 3 miles. So, and so there are various, and I'll have more to say about it as we go along. Okay, so we make up in acuity of the vision type of thing that, okay, we our, even though we are all mammals, our acuity of vision is better than that of a lion. Okay, we don't, we stink in terms of night vision. Okay, and but in terms of acuity, okay, and there are some criteria. And this is the whole evolutionary tree. The jump start, the separation took place, during the Cambrian explosion, when life just exploded with, a lot of availability. And that's where the, finally migrated, animals started migrating out of water. And that may be one of the reasons why our tears are salty, because it traces back to the original gene that has been, and as we emphasize the same way for the body part formation, the head, vertebra, abdomen, and legs, the same way, same gene has been utilized. There is a gene called PAX6. The name is not important, but it's, for those of you interested, it's alpha transcription factor, and that is the fundamental thing, that if there is abnormality in that, then you get an abnormality called aniridia, means eyes don't form. And at the same time, eyes are extension of your brain, so to speak. So retina is a direct window in your soul or your brain, so to speak. So that is, and you also get some neurological deficiency. So that is, so one gene, so the gene has been conserved, and there are various changes that are taking place with other proteins that have helped. So, and this is the whole evolutionary tree that you can see, that various phyla, starting from yeast onwards to all the things. So this is, the evolutionary tree, and this shows the distance as how many millions of years ago. And okay, and so this, this just gives you a guideline of the evolutionary thing. And then there was something called the Cambrian explosion. That's where we, the vision just evolved further, and we'll got more about it. Now, the underlying mechanism of this is, light sensitive cell that uses chemical, which is called retinol, okay, which is related to, slightly different than vitamin A. That's why vitamin A is important. And just to digress, that's why the genetically modified rice had vitamin A. But that has been hard for some countries to accept that, basically. So, but that is one of the basic mechanisms. That slight change in the molecule is the light sensitive chemical called chromophore. Okay, and that reacts, and there are varieties of protein that it reacts with, changing the shape of the protein. Okay, and our protein chemist friend is not here, but it changes what the protein chemist would like to describe as conformation changes, which the shape changes, and this protein is embedded inside your membrane of your cells, and that sets up the signal and the potential, and then eventually the message goes down to your brain. That's how the energy from light gets into the chemical formation and then into the electrical. So the whole circuit is basically completed. Okay, and there are varieties of light sensitive cells, and in humans it's called photosensitive ganglion cells. Okay, and again, I already talked about. So this is, the retinal protein thing. So okay, so now we've gone over that, and this and opsin protein has had so many varieties of frames have been changed. There are almost like as humans, we have about 8 opsins in our eye, which we'll talk about. Okay, while some of the other animals have, now the gene has been duplicated many times, so some animals have as many as 11 or even more than that. So, and the varieties of evolutionary changes of this particular protein has taken place, leading to an explosion of vision in different forms that we'll get to in just a little while. Okay. Okay, and I saw that is the similar to, as we saw the evolutionary tree, these are the genes of opsin tree. So it just really looks like a big thicket of live oak tree or a banyan tree. So you can just see there's varieties of opsins that these are just numbering. They can be mainly classified into 2 or 3. Basically, but the gene has multiplied evolved so many times, and now this is the granddaddy of all this goes down to this one. You may recognize this name, the melatonin. Okay, and that has to do, with your circadian rhythms, your day and night. Because the earliest thing would be, obviously the biggest change that occurred was, the rotation of the Earth and day and night. So in life form, that was one of the earliest form that appeared, the melatonin, and that has to do with, your so when the melatonin levels change in your body, that's when you fall, when you feel sleepy. That's why a lot of people take melatonin, when they are traveling, for the jet lag. So, but that's another story, and I think, and if anybody who's interested, I did a class on sleep, and so I've done something material on that, but that is, again, I don't want to digress too much. Okay, so this is, we talked, and the light receptor, and this has to do with something called the pineal gland, and that was considered the seat of the soul in the early days of anatomical dissection. But it just turns out that the pineal gland helps you with the melatonin production, and all animals use opsin. Okay, so basically the same blueprint has been, preserved over eons of evolution. Some of the fish may have as many as 20 type of opsins. Okay, And that has to do with, again, genes duplicating and multiplying and depending upon. And you can see how the melatonin molecule, is set inside the, it's just like somebody has jammed it inside the cell membrane, and there is a receptor. And so just the same concept that we talked about for opsin. Okay, and this is this was one of my slides from the earlier, the retina suprachiasmatic nucleus. That is, the crossing that takes place of the optic nerve. The right side goes to the left side, the nerves do crisscross. So that is what's this abbreviation still. And there are various nuclei in the brain. And this is, so this is the rhythmicity drives the melatonin rhythm. Okay. And so that's why there's an optimal time for certain activities, so again, now the original light, there is a Dutch scientist whose talk I listened to, and Ed Yong refers to him. This was a lot of the work that he devised. Now, this is kind of bailing out Darwin, because for those of you who know Darwin's work and have, read a little bit more than an average person, that Darwin in his tome was puzzled by, said, I always gave him trouble because there was another naturalist scientist named Asa Gray who wrote Darwin a letter that, it's really hard to explain the evolution of eye. And that is a lot of the creationists also argue about it, that eye is such a complex organ, there is no way it could have evolved. And that has been their big argument all the time. But and obviously, Darwin just kind of, scratched his head and says, okay, so that was, but the modern science has gone through a lot more way. But no, because obviously we have a lot more fossils and we have a lot more molecular science behind it. So the original light can be, the light comes in from, I could just say this is the cell that is gathering light from all directions. So, okay, very useful. But, again, it's like, by the time if you are at the bottom of the sea, as the light gets attenuated, as you get, light decreases by logarithmic scale as you get under the ocean, okay, and as you go beyond a few hundred meters, it's just pitch dark. So it's kind of useful, but not that great, good start. Okay, so if you put like a, opaque material behind it, yes, then at least you can gather the light and, okay, instead of losing to 1/9 of fragment of light, at least you can get down to 4 magnitude of light perception. So you're gathering light, okay? So that's how you're, like we are putting in a mirror, so to speak, behind it. So that's one way to do it, okay? So that's the second stage, okay? That was the part of the evolutionary thing.
Can I ask something? What creatures under the sea use that kind of mirror approach?
We'll get to that. We're getting to that. I think I'll have a lot of slides coming up for it, so just, okay. And this is similarly, okay, so when the protein gathers, but if you want to gather even more light, just fold up the protein, okay, create more layers, okay. So these are the varieties of layers that come around. So this is how the opsin protein is folded in 2 ways, cilia, which is like a little hair-like structure, and microvilli, which are a lot more organized. That's how the protein is folded. So to increase the sensitivity, so you can increase, gather more light. And these are varieties of ragworms, and I'll have pictures coming up in just a minute type of thing, and varieties of a flatworm, and I have a whole bunch of examples of slides that are just coming up, and just give me a second. Okay, so this is how the light gathering is it has evolved in terms of looking at the microscopic anatomy of type of thing. Now, again, if you want to gather it more, okay, you put, like a lens. So, just like concentrate the light on a pigmented cup. So this is one way you can try to narrow out again, okay, And so there are nature has experience with varieties of designs type of thing. And this is the box jellyfish. Okay, so you can just see that how the light, lens is incorporated, just like a basic camera, from a pinhole camera to a camera with lens, because you're focusing the light and gathering more light. And the same way the structures of telescopes or your binoculars, so the same principle has evolved. Okay, and sometimes, for the jellyfish, the image can still be blurry because it doesn't need a whole lot more, because it just needs to navigate the mangroves. Okay, and and so a lot of these animals, their need is relatively small compared to, they don't need to hunt, because they have other senses that are helpful to them. Okay, and such as touch and smell and vibration. So they evolved only to the extent that it was necessary for them for survival or for prey, okay, or just to run away basically, or to find a mate, okay, because they were not trying to do astronomy 101, okay. And this is the big example of difference, now this is what you were asking about, okay, the two types of obscene welding. These are cephalopods, which are your octopus, squid, cuttlefish, okay? And on the other hand, like terrestrial vertebrates, that is you and I, okay? So you can see how, but now human eye is kind of backwards, because we, the cells that gather, are upside down, while a lobster, octopus eye is much more straightforward, it is directly connected to its whatever, like a distributed brain that the octopus has. So it goes inside, while we have, no, that's why we have blind spot. And, you can easily, test yourself for blind spot. There are varieties of, like a clinical test that you could do. Okay. So these are vertebrates have something called ciliary based rods, okay, and cones are upside down. So that's why we're correct with the blind spot. So this is the big difference between two types of eyes that have evolved. They are both very similar. They have lenses, we have lenses, vitreous, okay, but the difference is the retina is strictly, the retinal layer is there, while ours is, backwards, so to speak. So that is, that's the difference that has occurred between the two evolutionary things. Now we can spend almost an hour just talking about octopus, and and we'll get some more into it hopefully during the last class. Okay, so these are the four major stages of evolution according to that scientist. We talked about the first is the non-directional light sensitivity. Is based on circadian rhythm and depth gauge, age. And this is directional light sensitivity, okay, low resolution, and the high resolution, which has evolved in birds and, and obviously mammals, okay. Okay, so, okay, and these are the tasks. So what is needed, okay, so because we, and obviously, our eyes are that off, even though we may not hunt, we have hunter's eyes, because we know we are not trying to see who's going to attack us from the side. So the eyes of a, fox versus like that of a rabbit, where the eyes are located, because either you are hunter or hunted, so that's, high resolution pursuit. And obviously, with warm-bloodedness, you needed speed to escape. So you needed faster resolution, okay? And the low resolution, you're just trying to select where you're going to survive or hang out, and movement control, navigation, and the same way, not directional light. So these are the various stages from the lowest, okay, to the highest. So, and and he actually even went around and calculated as to how many generations it would take, because based on a science called bioinformatics, they can say how long would it take for the behavior to change. And they came up with this sort of evolution can take from this to this in about 350,000 years, which is actually a blink of the eye. So I may have evolved, like numerous times as many as they're based on their molecular and the genomic analysis. they were able to duplicate this type of experiment in lab or computer simulation, that this has occurred numerous times. So finally, we can put QED on Darwin's dilemma, okay, that yes, the evolution has and has indeed occurred as many as 10 to 15 times in the course of origin of life from the lowest to the highest. And now you were asking about the birds, okay? Now, so these are, the side birds, okay? It says, obviously eagles, 540 million years ago. And because, they are the masters of vision, that's why we, refer to as here and see is eagle-eyed. So, and they can hunt from 10 to 15,000 feet and several miles away. Their muscles adjust to the curvature and to focus. Okay, so this is and at the same time, obviously, they're diving at close to 140 miles an hour and still not miss the target. Okay, moving down to that. Now, all of these are from the nature documentary slide that I gave you reference to. Okay, because sometimes when you try to show the documentary, it comes up with the copyright hit type of thing from if you want to share it. So that's why I just thought I'll just copy some of their images. Okay, Kestrel has large eyes, elongated light receptors with two circular fovea. Now, the word fovea may not be familiar to some of you, but that is the focus, where the light, actually, that is where the sharpest vision that gets to. It's like in the center of the retina. Okay, so that's where the light really, is the most acute, or the acute zone basically. So fovea is more of an anatomical term. Okay, so like a telephoto lens. Okay, and it also has a type of a UV or ultraviolet vision. Okay, and so they can even spot, like the rodent urine. Okay, basically. So that's a which reflects. Okay, and you can just see how this was their nice way of focusing, and obviously it's a lot nicer to see in in a video formation. So if you want to see it in full glory, please go to that site. Now, eagle owl, okay, has a large, forward-facing eyes, basically, and stereoscopic, best to move, so it's a long-sighted, okay, and dragonflies in insect world have large eyes as well, by the way. I didn't put a slide for that, but so you can just see that the birds have, remarkable vision. And now, interestingly, this may be, and I emphasize that we have a better acuity of vision, type of thing. So, okay, and there are ways to measure acuity of vision, and humans outshine, obviously eagles have a better acuity, but compared to other mammals, we're not so bad after all, So, and the way they can measure is if you say, if you're looking at a zebra stripes and you extend your thumb and your nail of your thumb is like a 1 degree. So that's the visual acuity that measure how many stripes you can actually identify on this little area, which is the size of an outstretched thumb. Okay, and so that's that's the way to measure type of thing. And even dogs and other animals, our acuity is far superior than. So what we have lost in the terms of frequency, we've gained in terms of acuity. Okay, and again, so sometimes the birds have vision, but they don't have straightaway vision, because, and that may be the reason what, according to Ed, that's one of the reasons why they run into windmills. Okay, so they have kind of a blind spot in front of them. Okay, so that's one of those interesting, limitation that they have. Okay, now these are the nocturnal vision. Okay, this is that some of the animals which have amazing night vision. This is tarsier. That's a tiny little, monkey, in Southeast Asia. Okay, and they can rotate their eye and have, and ears as well. Okay, and they can jump up. They're the smallest primates, but you can see how their big eye is, so like kind of a cuddly little thing, okay. It looks like something from E.T. or Star Wars type thing. Okay, have the largest eyes relative to the body size amongst mammals. Okay, if we were to have size this side, our eyesight would have to be as big as an apple to match. Okay, and they're named for their extremely long feet, and not for their eyes. Okay, which take up half of their face literally. Okay, the eye is larger than an animal's brain or its stomach. Okay, and as I said earlier, they are in the Southeast Asia, Philippines, and other islands, and they are nocturnal creatures. But they don't have something called a reflective, a layer, which your cat has, okay. But because they have a huge eye, they're able to gather more light. Again, just like a camera or telescope, obviously, if you want to gather light, have a bigger lens, and so you can capture more light. Okay, so and some of the nocturnal animals have a slit-like pupils, okay, while tarsiers are outliers for whatever reasons, they have a human round pupil, and they can actually constrict it, okay, and they have both rods and cones, but the color vision doesn't do much good at nighttime, okay, and they have a big crystalline lens, okay, and they can rotate their eyes, so almost just like, reminds you like an actor Marty Feldman, okay, and they're also able to turn their head 180 degrees. So the evolution is just phenomenal, so I think I've said enough about it, so we'll move on. Okay, and this is, the fruit fly, you can just see it. Now this is one of the videos, and hopefully I can show it will play. If you cannot see it, please let me know.
This fly is a remarkable insect. You could call it the Top Gun of the fly world. Can spot, track, and kill its prey in half a second. That is the equivalent of a human spotting and catching his prey at the other end of a football pitch. So how does it do this? My name is Paloma González Pellido, and we have been studying this incredible insect using high-speed video cameras and microscopic images. We found that the robber fly has very sophisticated eyes. The majority of insects have compound eyes. What this means is that they have one lens for each sensor in each unit. You can imagine that if you want a high-resolution eye, you will have to have a really big eye because there are so many lenses. And so we actually wonder, how is it that this small animal can actually do this task while being so small? What we discovered is that it had, of the many lenses in this eye, many of them were small, but some of them were really, really large. And these large lenses were actually at the center of the eye. Beneath it, they're actually very, very small sensors. And what this means is that this fly gets a really high resolution image of the wall just in that small part of the field of view. When it spots its prey, the fly launches itself upwards, maintaining the same relative angle to its prey while moving closer and closer. This means that the robber fly can maneuver himself midair if its prey changes direction. Once the fly is within 29 centimeters of its prey, although we don't know how it measures this distance, the fly locks onto its prey while changing its own trajectory. It then sweeps around, slows down, and comes alongside his prey to make its final attack. We think this is an amazing insect that will help us develop better robots or drones. Nowadays, one of the problems with drones is that they basically consume a lot of energy and they will drain their batteries very, very quickly. This is because it takes energy to process all the visual information so that they can actually navigate the world without crashing. As is often the case, we can take lessons from the natural world to minimize these power requirements. This, combined with a remarkable robber fly hunting ability, can help us better design drones. So, for example, these drones will be used in rescue operations where it is not safe to send a human in.
Okay, so I think you get the idea. So that thing says, I know, but that's just shows about a benefit of biodesign. Okay, and I think one of the young grad students did a nice class on biodesign at Lake Magdalene.
Your voice is very soft now.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I'll stand lean forward. I was leaning back. Okay, so I will speak up, and so this is just again summarizing, the evolution of eye. We have beaten death to death basically. So, and we, and now interestingly, the one thing that I did not mention that the octopus has, is remarkable animal that they have they have even their skin on their limbs is sensitive and they can actually see with their skin. And at the same time, some sea snakes have eyes on their tail. The Japanese yellow butterfly have eyes on their genitals. Now go figure that. Okay, so it's it's in all sorts of varieties of things. Okay, and the birds have, obviously they're in a class by themselves. Okay, and these are some of the examples of the eyes. You can just see, you have eyes all over, and this is starting from. This may have been harder to read, so I copied this for, this is the spider eyes, gorilla, okay, goat, okay, and then cat, okay, beluga, okay, elephant, okay, that is easy to identify, owl, okay, and then human, okay, I think I missed one, sorry, I think, and donkey. So this is, you can say they come in all sorts of shapes. So hopefully I've made it a bit later bigger, and so you can read the names. Yeah. Oh yeah, and missed the octopus. So the king of all. So and I think if you haven't read the Soul of Octopus, it's just it's an altogether, amazing creature. Okay. And it's a difficult research for do because they escape and they eat each other, and so they can and they can steal open jars. And again, this was my earlier slide after I found, and this is just almost impossible to see basically. But again, summarizes the layers that we talked about, from the real pigments part to we just gather light, and to flatworms. And these are the examples that you were asking about. Okay, pinhole, that is the same organism that we talked about, the nautilus, which has the shell and has remained unchanged for almost 500 million years. Okay, well, octopus, they lost the shell and evolved totally differently. Enclosed eyes, lens formed in the early sea creatures, snails, and then complex camera, which eyes developed. Okay, and then compound lenses, which are in clams. Okay, so you can see that there is. And for those of you who really want to read more about it, there is a freestanding institute out of UK called Gresham College, Gresham College. Okay, they've been around for only 400 or so years, and they put out a series of lectures on different subjects, from biology to history to philosophy to anything. And I think when I did my first class, there is a series of lecture by a professor named Professor Ailiff, and he goes around from the classics, from arts to evolution. And obviously, he's and with a delightful English accent, you can even read encyclopedia and get away with it. But he's absolutely a very erudite speaker, talking about the history of cataract surgery, lenses, and eye diseases. So those are absolutely delightful lectures. And there are about 7 or 8 of them. Dr. Ailiff, Ayliffe. So just to give you a reference, I will set that. I did not have that in the link because we are not just limited to humans. Okay, so I think moving right along. And now this is, talking about the king of eyes, praying a peacock mantis shrimp, that has a 3-part eye. Okay, and you can see the eyes. I mean, they're like, it's unreal. They have like 16 photoreceptors, and like the nature just gave it's everything. It can see ultraviolet, visible light spectrum, polarized light even. Okay, and they are the only animals that can detect something which I would struggle to explain, a circularly polarized light. So the people who are really physicists or physics major can explain when they, I mean, I understand what a polarized light is, which is polarized glasses, but what is circularly polarized light? When the wave component of the light rotates in a circular motion, so they can perceive depth with one eye and move each eye independently, So this is, so it's absolutely, it's like nature gifted this little shrimp with like everything that she knew of or it was capable of, So Now, how much can they see their own cells? That is beyond me, or how much brain that they have, so they're all eyes basically. Okay, and so you can just see this is the praying, and this again, like if you see in a video, that will be a lot more, impressive. But I think it's just for sake of time, I did not put the entire video clips. As you can see how their eyes are, and they can see all sorts of things underneath. Okay, and they're unique in kingdom basically. So they have like mobile stalks and so and a mantis punch. Okay, so now even though this is they're kind of a mean little animals. So people who do research that there are two types of shrimp. Okay, and they have claws. Not only that, so they are like spearers and smashers. So they can defend themselves and attack. They can be vicious little thing to work with. They use barbed claws to slice and snag the flesh of other animals. Okay, the smashers have a bowling ball type club. They literally bludgeon, okay, and smash apart the shells of snails, crab. Okay, so and this is it's when you read about it, I almost fell out of chair that this is why does nature need to endow this little animal that okay that the punch can accelerate to as fast as a 22 caliber bullet. Okay, and this is like 25,000 its own 2,500 times its own weight. It's an impressive punch, and like and they're like about 6-inch range, but they can measure up to so they can break a 1/4-inch thick glass. Okay, they can smash aquarium tanks. Okay, and so this is like, and they have hinged arms basically, so they're folded away under its head and spring like latch. Okay, so they can just palm, just like running into Muhammad Ali, while you're minding your own business. Okay, so that's it's an evolutionary one-off, so to speak. So okay, and
is there any reason why some creatures have just barely enough to survive, but something like this seems to be overloaded?
Okay, it's like it's like Stephen Hawking used to say, knowing the mind of God, of all people, Stephen Hawking saying. So I think your guess is as good as mine, sir. Okay, as to why it needs such an overwhelming capacity to hunt and survive, that's beyond my comprehension. So I think, or beyond my pay scale. Okay, and I think I already had that slide. Sorry, I think I didn't arrange them properly. Okay, and this is a better way of looking at it. This was the octopus eye, and it shows, the two eyes in, and so you can see the actual eye. This is the vertebrate in the same slide, the retina and the nerve fibers. Third is the optic nerve, and the fourth is the blind spot. Okay, but we make up for it by, because brain recognizes the different set patterns. So we kind of fill in the gaps, because our processing center helps us out with the so-called blind spot. Okay, because initially you gather the information, but you try to make a sense out of it. So you don't actually encounter the blind spot. You'd have to really run a test for it, at bedside. Okay, so telescopes. And now of all the free websites, BBC is the one that enforces the copyright laws very strictly. So they would hit you, and it would say, nope, you're violating it. So that's why I could not show their slides. Anything, even just the smallest clip from BBC, they will enforce it. So these are telescopic lobster eyes. Their eyes are on a stalk that's covered with thousands of tapered square tubes, which are like mirrors. And they have a wide angle illusions, and they're like a tubes, which are curved from all directions. So that's another varieties of evolution. Okay, and it's something more close to home that you may recognize your own pets. Okay, I think a couple of more minutes, and then we should take a break, perhaps. So okay, they have excellent night vision, get elliptical sort of eye, and they have something called a reflecting layer called tapetum. Okay, and that's the eye. So this is what their eyelid looks like. Let me see if I can focus that a little bit more. Okay, the sclera. I mean, it's very similar because after all, they're the same mammals. So a conjunctiva upper eyelid. So it's, very similar type thing. So, but the so-called third eyelid that, covers and reflecting layer of nictitating membrane. So, it helps them stalk at night or hunt at night. Okay, I think, so yeah, I still have a couple of 4 minutes to 2 o'clock. So, and jumping spiders go. So among most of the spiders, they sense the word or to get their umwelt from the web. Okay, and so they rely on their extended senses based on the web that they have spun. But this one is an exception. They have 4 pairs of eyes. Okay, each with a different job. Okay, let's see if we can show you this. Okay, these are the principal eyes in the center and 2 large forward facing with high resolution and then move their gaze to detect color, and secondary eyes which are on the side. Okay, and you can see it around here. Okay, they don't move, different function like picking up signals and from the side. So they're really okay. Okay, I'm sorry, I have to move my window so my notes are being blocked. Okay, and they're forward facing. So this is, have incredibly high resolution because they're tiny little spiders, they're between 2 to 20 millimeters. So it's like less than an inch for US, so it's like, it's a tiny little thing, but they have a rotating retina. And they'll not only just have 2 lenses, so just like, they must have a good cataract surgeon, gives them one for top and bottom. So, okay, so this is like, and but the other spiders, they rely on vibrations. Okay, so this is interesting. So this is like a lower resolution eyes. So this is gives you like and they can also monitor what is behind them. So they have like a 360-degree view. So it's a small animal that's both a hunter as well as a prey. So the evolution really, it's a blessed little creature that it can hunt as well as avoid being hunted. Okay. All right. I think we should take a break for a few minutes and then we'll continue with my monologue. Okay. I'll stick around. I'll stop share, pause recording, and get back in 5 minutes. Okay. Actually, I want to pause recording, not stop it. Okay. All right. I think people will filter back slowly. Okay. I see that a couple of people are away from the desk, but no biggie. Okay. Now, moving on to another animal, which is a surprise, chameleon. Okay, which is, and there are like, 100 or so more species, and they have different sorts of eyes. Upper and lower eyelids are joined, and they again have a 360-degree vision. Okay, and they're again also able to see ultraviolet. So they they have advantage as well. And this was a video on praying mantis, but I think we have already talked enough about it, so I don't think I'm going to spend too much time on it. So okay, because they're kind of cute, but vicious little things. Okay, and now this is
You are not sharing yet.
oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, oh yeah, good. Thanks for pointing it out. Yeah, okay. More share. No, wrong click. Okay, you should have it now. Okay, everybody's got the slide now?
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you. Sorry about that, my mistake. Okay, right, so, and this is what we talked about, okay, and you can see how their eyes are really like, looks like a very sophisticated camera. Okay. And this was a GIF image, but it's like, would love to have eyes like that, So this is, each can move independently. The eyelids are joined, 360-degree vision, sharp as well as depth. Okay. At the same time, UV capability thrown in for good measures. Okay. And we talked about praying mantis, and this is night vision kings, which are, obviously your hunters, the big cats, and they have the tapetum that we talked about, again, this is, in videos you'll see this a lot more dynamic, as to how this is like a nice graphics, as to how they can reflect light, backlight, and they also have, cheetahs have exception. They also have excellent daytime vision also, along with the speed. So their fovea is elongated, it's like a wide angle lens. That way they can turn very quickly and they can scan the area basically. And before they don't want to waste energy by trying to run needlessly. So they can really scan the area, okay, like this little diagram shows, and then things so. And okay, and so this is, and they kind of, because of their hunting abilities, which is primarily at nighttime, they're more active at dawn and dusk. So there's a fancy word for it that that people talk about, which is, you can throw around at parties, called crepuscular vision. So they're kind of restless because they're out to, that's why my neighbor's cat is out at before 6 o'clock, looking for prey in our backyard. Okay. And so there's, and they have a lot more rod vision than us. Okay. And they have greater peripheral vision. They have a larger cornea. Okay. And at the same time, if you have a huge head, like elephants and dolphins and hippos, so they have like 2 or 3 foveas, or so-called acute zones. Okay. Because you can't, you and I can turn our head and look at focus where we want to really focus on. Okay. But they're not, it's not that easy to move that big, you know, head. So they have like 2 or 3 active zones, so that nature has helped them out in that way. Okay. Okay. And then again, we're talking about the color vision. Now, this is a concept that, even though I've gone to medical school, this was a term that was relatively new to me, because that's the process theory of color vision. Because we all know about the red-green color blindness and other stuff that has been hammered into it. Okay, so this is like a concept of color vision states that humans perceive color through 3 opposing systems: red versus green, blue versus yellow, black versus white. So one member of the color pair suppresses the other. Okay, so we see yellowish green and reddish yellow, but we never see reddish green or yellowish blue. Okay, so this is, okay, and that's how they, think is processed. Okay, there are varieties of neurons get excited. Now, some other critters have more opsins, 4 opsins. So this is not just orange, green, violet, and ultraviolet. Okay. Okay. So this is, so they have a lot more advantage. I think so. And some of the other animals, they're, especially in the water, they were stuck with shades of gray. Okay. And all the things, a lot of things evolved, change at the time of Cambrian explosion, as we mentioned earlier. And this is what you see, but this is what actually your dog sees. They are dichromatic. Okay, so they're, so this is, their vision, basically hard for them to see orange markers and blue and yellow. Same way, horses have a different vision also. So, the jumping markers, the red, white stuff, for a horse, that's a waste on the horse. So you won't be able to perceive that easily. Okay. So, as we saw, we tend to anthropomorphize, put our abilities on other creatures, but, our standard is different. Okay. And this is what, in the beginning, you were asking about the color vision. Okay. And obviously, yes, that you're right, that our origin has to, when we were, up in the trees, that's when the, looking at the ripe fruit and gathering more calories, that has a lot lot more reason. So this was like a sort of a beneficial mistake, that occurs about 40 million years ago in primates, okay. The copy of the gene shifted to a different zone, okay, and that gave us the advantage of more nutritious food. So, and this is now this genes is collected to your X and Y chromosome. So it's a sex linked. That's why males they give only one copy. So that's why the males have color blindness. And the same way, and the color vision that evolved differently in the old world monkeys and new world monkeys. Okay, and human eyes, basically you can perceive three main colors: red, blue, and green. And this can be combined. Varieties of combinations can be created with different visible spectrum. And all this work was done in the late 19th or early 20th century by physicist, the one that I named about earlier, Thomas Young, okay, who was a Scotsman and was a polymath. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was instrumental in working on the Rosetta Stone also, and was truly a polymath, and about 20 years ago, I read a book, The Last Man Who Knew Everything. Okay, so, but that was a bit of a hyperbole, but I'm digressing. And this theory was later tested by the German Hermann von Helmholtz. Okay, and he had a lot to do with electricity as well. So again, so this is the spectrum which we we talked about in details. Okay, and so the old word, there's a monkey that's called Katarin monkey, old word monkey. So the gene is sex linked. So the males are dichromatic, and the females sometimes by choice can get the extra version. So they can be trichromatic and bichromatic. So this is, again, when it is sex linked, the same problem that we see, the classic example being hemophilia because of the sex linked inheritance that takes place. Okay, so the evolution has worked in different way, I think. And the ultraviolet vision, that we'll talk a little bit more about it, like how, the flowers can reflect the ultraviolet, and the butterflies and the birds have evolved the ability, in their own wings, as well as, to scurry. Okay. And many, not just birds, but reptiles, fish, insects, they have ultraviolet. They have sensitive photoreceptors, and some of the other smaller and mammals can also detect, UV this thing. So somehow along the line, as humans, we lost that ability. And varieties of sunflowers, like flowers like marigolds, black-eyed Susan. Okay, right, you see right here, they all look same to us, but but the bees can see UV patches at the base of the petal. Okay, so they can really zoom in on the area very easily, type thing. So they're, they have the advantage for their survival. Okay, now this is, again, before we move away from electricity, this someday I was planning to do a class on bioelectricity, and this is, we talked about energy from light. Similarly, electricity can do varieties of things, that by giving electrical signal, you can turn on the eye genes, okay, and then directing the signal can lead to a defect. And by electrical properties, these cells can be manipulated to generate organs, okay. And so they can also do it with the gene transfer the whole ion channel, which we talked about, the sodium potassium thing, and can create eye formation in different parts. As you can see how the frog has the tadpole, that is their work, basically test organism. You can see it has grown eye patch on its back, on the side type thing. So, and so these are like, one can say these are almost a Frankensteinian experiments. On the other hand, you can say that this may be the way to learn more about regenerative medicine. Okay, and so this is, so this is the cutting edge technology that I think in some of my other classes we have talked about. A scientist at Tufts named Michael Levine he's on the forefront of bioelectricity research, and they're doing some amazing work with, and they've extended this. This is our older papers from 2011. So this was their earlier attempt as to, so they've nurtured the communication of the cells to form a new organ at a different location. Okay, so so this is the test organism was a frog embryo. Okay, there is a specific membrane voltage that drives the organogenesis of formation of these organs. Okay, so these cells were never thought that they will, how on the earth they would form eyes at this site. The cells from anywhere can be driven to form eyes. So that was their hypothesis. And by goodness, they actually proved it by changing the gradient. Okay, so this is, so it was in the back. This is on the back, and on the tail also. So that's okay. So this was some groundbreaking experiment, and obviously they have done a lot of work on planaria, which can be divided and regenerated from two heads. And okay, so I think we are almost done with the set of slides that I have done for eyes. Now I have two things that I think if you, now this is, I think I'm going to pause the recording if I can without messing it up. Okay. Okay, I think, because I think I don't have too much help for slides, but I think I need to get them, a little bit more arranged before we jump on to the other discipline. Okay. Now I have a few extra minutes, but I think I'll stop at this point and just open up the floor for comments and things like that. Okay. Okay, and because I prepared a few slides for this one, but I think we.
But Rod, I have a question.
Sure.
There's certain things that human beings have lost because we didn't need them to survive. We don't have the muscular strength of the chimpanzees and so on. And I'm wondering whether are there any things that we have lost, like, for example, maybe from the primate stage or some other stage in terms of our senses?
I'm trying to, understand your, so, well, obviously, we lost our, muscle strength, but that's about all I can think of at this stage, type of thing. And obviously, our digestive abilities, are different. Okay, let me just quickly see if you're interested. I can show you some of my the original slides for sight. This was okay. I'm sharing screen one. Okay, let me just minimize chat. Okay, are you able to see the slide? History of senses.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, all right. So I will just go through the salient one. So this is, okay. Okay, anatomy of the eye. Okay, basically the muscles. And I'll share some of this with you. And this is something called saccade, the eye movement, how the eye varies. So this was one of the figures as to how eye tries to focus, and so, and these are some of the philosophical things that I had thrown in. Okay, why is the sky blue? Okay, and these are the gory slides. Okay, the physicians were recognized as to how we can diagnose diseases. The Wilson's disease, which has to do with copper metabolism, the late night advertisement. There must be a lot of money to be made in a medication for thyroid. I keep seeing ads for the exophthalmos, which was usually a surgical disease. Okay, and the disease of anemia. So how clinicians used to diagnose. Okay, okay, and this is the controversy about origin of eye, Darwin's cold shoulder. So this is what about his letter from Asa Gray. Okay, and this is what the optic fundus would look like, retina and iris, the healthy one. Okay, and this is what a stroke would look like. So let's just see what else I have. And this is mutation. Now this is about as bad as it gets, you know, and this was like a improbable. The mouse had developed mutation. The toad was born with eyes in the roof of the mouth. Okay, and this are again, you know, I had some of the same eyeless gene that we talked about. You know, this was a 1935 Nobel Prize to Hans Sperman. Okay, and his able assistant, you know, so they discovered, you know, a lot of the earlier works. Them, yeah. Okay, and let's see what else I had. And light to electricity, how the impulse is conducted, it had the photoreceptors, the basic mechanism that takes place. Okay, how the impulse is transmitted to the nerve ending and the proteins change shape. Okay. And how the retinal ganglion response takes place, you know, this centers around a response that takes place. Okay. And this is how your brain processes, you know, the so-called, and there is a well-known neuroscientist named Dr. Livingston at MIT or Harvard, and this is some of her work. And she has a very nice location as to how the brain interprets the what system and where system. And this again, you can see even in other mammals as to how the impulse is processed. And we talked about the scientists that were involved in it. And this is the mechanism of the color vision as to how the color vision is processed in the brain at various layers, how the image is broken down and sent up. Okay, this was the earliest discovery of eyeglasses, the usual Snellen's chart that we talked about, you know, for that you may be familiar with. And this is what some of us have suffered or might suffer, you know, macular degeneration. Okay, and for which there is, you know, some expensive treatment that is being promoted. Okay, so this are, I mean, I had, you know, these are some of the slides that I've talked about. And there's a whole talk on it. So if you have time and interest, you know, by all means, go about it. No, so I have some art that is included in it. So this is the whole slew of sites, you know, that, so it goes, and last but not the least, some optical illusions, you know, this is the video for that. Okay, so there are like about 90 slides that I did on my first class. So I've just gone over with very quickly over that. So hopefully that gives you some appetite or about the earlier thing about the history and science of senses. And this was, I think, 2006, 8, 19 that I did in the class. Okay, I think we should definitely stop here. And hopefully we'll see you guys next time. Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you, Brett.
Okay, thanks again, everybody, for
Thank you. See you next time.
Okay, likewise. Bye-bye.
But I think you expressed some frustration over trouble sending large files by email.
Yeah, no, I think if I get the Zoom recording, I can send the link alone, so they can download it with the password. Oh, that's easy.
That can work fine. I just want to mention to you that
without the license, it was difficult to do. Okay, if you are recording on your own computer, it won't let you do it. But if a Zoom link, yeah, there is no issue. No, it would work. Oh, I've done that.
If you do decide you want to send files that are too big, at least when you use Gmail as your client, in the event that the files you attach are too big to be sent, they automatically switch it to uploading it to your
I've done that
account and send it as a link instead. So you don't even have to worry about file size if you use that format.
I mean, I've put it up on Google Drive and with the link, you know, that for anybody with the link can create.
It works well. Anyway, thank you. Another fascinating lecture, and I've learned a lot, had a few things that were real surprises. Anyway,
it's fun. Yeah, it is fun preparing for it. I enjoyed preparing for it. I mean, I don't care if there are only 5 people or 10, but you know, I think it was frustrating that in the diabetic class I had like 4 people. I said, this is crazy. I did a whole class. I mean, I thought Ozempic would be of interest, and I had, you know, I spent almost 3 months preparing the lecture for that, diabetes, obesity, and Ozempic. But I said, these are all my friends. I can share the slide with him for free. I don't want to have them have to pay for it. So I just said.
And of course, little did you know when you started that Ozempic was the cure for everything.
Oh yeah, my goodness, yeah. I think that
it doesn't matter what addiction to alcohol, Parkinson's disease, whatever you've got. Ozempic seems to be the answer these days.
I have a bad wife like fen-phen. You remember fen-phen?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I mean, then we saw some tricuspid atresia, tricuspid scar tissue, and that was bad. I mean, like, and people used to from Wisconsin, they used to go to Florida to get fen-phen. I mean, there were clinics all over Florida handing out fen-phen.
I hate
Yes.
to be ignorant, but I don't know what Ozempic is.
It is a new drug which blocks the appetite and reduces weight and it lowers the blood sugar also. So it stimulates your insulin, and at the same time it has effect on satiety. It works on your brain and it reduces your appetite. So that is like people who didn't have diabetes are asking for that prescription, and it was like
Oh my gosh.
mad rush for it. And it only costs $1,000 a month. And
Is that all?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll have
And-
to find my other wallet where I have my extra $1 billion.
Yeah, and it is responsible for 10% of Denmark's GDP.
Wow.
It's a company, that Novo Nordisk that markets it in the United States. It is 10% of GDP of Denmark. And they sell.
But in exchange for that high price, they have a very nicely packaged delivery system. It's automated, hard to do it wrong. It's a proprietary drug. There are no generics yet. It'll become cheaper when there are. And it does cause people to lose impressively large amounts of weight. The price they pay is some side effects and some risks. If the digestion may slow so much that gastric emptying is greatly delayed. If you need emergency surgery, instead of fasting for 6 or 8 hours, you might have to fast for 5 days to be confident you have an empty stomach.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there are a batch of other minor side effects. But the bottom line is, if you want to lose 50 pounds and you're willing to pay a few $1,000s, it really works.
Yeah.
Well, I've gone from 235 to 205 by playing basketball. So that works for me.
Wonderful. But you got to admit, most people can't do that.
Yeah,
it's a matter of willpower over nature, and nature usually wins. You did a wonderful job overcoming that.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely, sir. And the same drug is available in Germany for $250, $200, and it's got 1,000 in the United States.
Wow.
And thus far, compounded pharmacies are forbidden to make an equivalent product and sell it.
Yeah.
Anyways, look up glucagon-like peptide agonists, and you'll find there are several drugs. They're all prescribed for people with diabetes, but are being used more for weight loss than for diabetes currently, off-label.
And I've loaded those lectures on my YouTube channel. So if you just look under my thing, I have all the lectures that I did. So I said, even though I didn't give the class, I said, I'm not going to use the material. So it's there forever under my YouTube channel. So
thank you, Bharat.
Okay, bye-bye. See you next week. Bye-bye.